Shalom, Yashrala. This your brother Dawud from GMS Tampa Bay #07, coming at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught me the truth and that ruled well. And salutation and much love for you. I can push this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. I'm going to jump into this here lesson. Actually, I got a series of lessons just dealing with the basics of the Bible, if you've seen at camp this weekend, we had a Jake come up, it's crazy about how the spirit is, I've been noticing this over the last couple of weeks, or over the last week, but you have Jake coming up basically saying that he don't believe in certain things. It's the white man's book and so on and so forth, in which you can't really fault him because what had happened to our people, and certain things, and pretty much it's they kind of have some kind of weight to add to that, but the book itself isn't the problem. It's the stories that they tell us, like how they say so-called Jesus' birthday is on Christmas. Well, you don't find that in the scriptures nowhere, but everybody, they can kind of put two and two together, like, oh yeah, Jesus' birthday is on Christmas, but they teach that, people hear that as if it was doctrine, but it's nowhere in the scriptures. But nevertheless, I was dealing with and I had a lot of family in town, for like the last week and a half, and and it's crazy how people are, our people are starting to wake up, but they're, it's like they have their eyes cracked open, that they don't see the whole deal, but dealing with one of my relatives, this particular person, not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, they was speaking on how, the Bible isn't real and this and that, man. You still believe in the white man's book and so on and so forth and blah, blah, blah. You wasting your time with all of that. And, man, there's so many different religions and all this. You got to go back to the history, Now I see this same relative, recently. And they apparently they didn't got caught into something on YouTube. They trying to push out, man, we all the same people. We all Native Americans and blah, 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 blah. Like, well, what you're noticing is that we all Israelites, and the natives, for the most part, a lot of them was actually dark skinned, but, that's not saying that that's who we are. You see certain things, you can tell, you have an eye like, damn, there's something about these people, but you don't realize these are the people of the Bible, you still have that on your head because you think this is the white man's book. So we're going to pull out a couple of scriptures. The white man is spoken about in the scriptures. So-called Negroes are also spoken about in the scriptures. But it's from their, not necessarily their perspective, but these are the ones that are, the stories revolving around, and also America's described in the scriptures. All right. So we're going to get into these couple lessons. And in this lesson, we're going to pull out, just briefly touching on certain scriptures that talk about the so-called white man, because, our people like to say this is the so-called white man's book, but they can't really pull out, in their mind, their perception is that, all the blessings go to the white man. Well, we tell them, like, the white man is talked about in the Bible, but not in the light that you would think, If you would understand that the light that they was actually speaking to the white man, you'd be like, oh, this is definitely our book. This is definitely describing him, So we're going to jump into like I said, just briefly running through light scriptures, something that, somebody not in this truth that, you could give it to them on a surface value. They'd be like, okay, I can put these things together. Let me look a little further. So with that, we're going to start out in the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. All right. It says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay. And we could just stop there, who, what, if we talking about nationalities of people, all right, we just, let's take it to a cardinal sense, we're speaking about so-called races of people. All right. So if the earth was given into the hand of the wicked, all right, now the scripture is telling you that the person who is possessing the earth, the scriptures view them as the wicked. Okay, so they're not in a good light. They're not like the gods of the earth or nothing like that. The scriptures say that the people who would possess the earth would be the wicked. All right, so the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right, so we know that the possessors of the earth is the wicked, but who is possessing the earth right now? All right, is it the Chinese, the Japanese? Is it Africans, or is it Arabs, or is it so-called black people, or so-called Native Americans? For this conversation, we'll just classify. We're not going to use the word Israelites because, again, this is more or less a lesson. If I was speaking to somebody who hadn't quite got that far yet, got to feed them the milk before you can give them the meat. This is a person who don't want to believe in the Bible, but bring out the facts. Nevertheless, not to say the so-called Israelites, but the Israelites, the so-called Negroes and the Latinos, these people aren't ruling the earth. So the only people that's ruling the earth right now, that's telling people who can have nuclear bombs, who can't have nuclear bombs, set sanctions on whoever's land, and go and invade whoever's country. If you have that type of authority, that means you basically the head honcho, more or less to say. It's like you versus the police. You can't roll up on the police and try to search his car because you don't have authority over him. He can roll up on you and tell you, look, let me see your license, let me search your car. You can't do nothing about it because he has authority over you. All right. So just in this here scripture alone, just at the top, it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. Let's get rid of the wicked. All right. The earth is given into the hand of these people. All right. Answer that question. Who is possessing the earth? Who is over top of the whole earth? You could say, well, let's go back to Barack Obama's times. All right. And we know he's an African. But again, this is milk to a, somebody who's not quite into the truth, But nevertheless, and we know that, really it's a waste of time because this is only for the elect, and the elect is going to hear the elect is going to hear the Lord's voice. But nevertheless, in defense of the gospel, like, look, man, this, we could break it down elementary for you, But nevertheless, the earth is given into the hand of who? All right, the so-called white man. All right, but nevertheless, let's go back to Barack Obama times. Let's just say he's a so-called black man, right? We know he's an African, but let's just say he's a so-called black man. Some people will be like, oh, well, the leader of the United States is a so-called black man. Well, who is he getting his marching orders from? All right. If they don't go by what they are being told to do, you see what happened to JFK and Abraham Lincoln, right? Those are your two good examples, is not to get out of line. So at the end all be all, this nation is being ran and how do I say, the orders are being put out on the earth through these Edomites, so-called white people. Okay. And even deeper than that, when you go into what really runs all this stuff, military and finance and stuff like that, really finance, because you ain't got no military without no finance. Who's at the head of all of that? It's not the so-called Asians or the Chinese, the Japanese, Africans. None of these people. It's so-called white people, right? So it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, who and where is he? Right? Now, who's the head judge, Yahushua, who the world England calls Jesus Christ. Now, whose likeness is that image painted in? All right. Only here in America, really. Because like I said, you go into like Europe and places like that, they actually still have so-called black images up over there. All right. The Pope bows down and prays to a so-called black image. He don't pray to a so-called white image, Caesar Borgia and stuff like. He don't bow down to that. He bow down to actual so-called black people images. But nevertheless, whose likeness is that image in? It's not the Arabs. It's not the Chinese. If they have their other religions, they make their own gods. You have that big blue person with all these different arms and shit like that. And the Africans, you see what they had out in Egypt. You see what I'm saying? The only person who will put the main judge up after his own likeness is the so-called white man. So 2 birds, 1 stone in this one verse. All right. Who covered the faces of our judges and so-called painted all the pictures and make everybody believe that everybody in the scriptures is of their race. It's the people whose race that you think that they are. All right. So-called white man has never invented a religion. All right. Let alone uphold or follow any spirituality. That's not in his DNA. It's not in him to do that. He's not programmed to do that. All right. So it says here again, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Okay, so if you was ask those 2 questions, who's possessing the earth right now? So-called white man. And who is the likeness of our main judge and the likeness of so-called white man? All right. Now, how does the Bible describe this person? It says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. So they're not being spoken of in a good light as if they're the Lord's people or anything like that. All right. So it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. If not, or he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. That's just, one, like I said, one surface level scripture of pointing out this so-called white man and his place in the scripture. All right. Now, this is Zechariah 11:5. It says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. All right. So first of all, whose possessors? So if you're a possessor, that means you possess something. And what are they possessing? All right. Now, we'll get that. We'll put that actually next. says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. Now, this is getting into slavery, all right? Now, it says, the next precept I'm going to pull is Joel 3:6, which, goes into both of these that I'm about to pull out. But it says, whose possessors slay them. Okay, so who is in captivity? Okay, we know from history, what do they call it? The transatlantic slave trade, all right? Well, you never return what you stole. You steal something, you have to return it. You never restore that what you possess. Okay, so whose possessors, okay, the so-called white man possessed us and brought us over here, all right? Not only did he bring us over here into slavery, they was out here actually slaying us, lynching us, killing us, burning us, barbecuing us, all those types of things. So not only do you possess us, you also, not only that, you committed genocide against us, the natives, or the so-called natives, all right? The so-called Taino Indians, the Puerto Ricans, so-called Puerto Ricans. You genocided them, The same over here with the so-called Negroes, all right? Not only did you take us, you took the Northern Kingdom in captivity first, but not only did you take us in captivity, you tried to put us to death with all that, It says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, all right? Now, this is one of these Jedi mind tricks right here. All these so-called white people around here say that this is their land because their forefathers fought for it and this and that, but they'll never tell you who they fought for. They'll tell you they fought the English, but they were the English, and this wasn't the English land for them to be fighting them to try to take possession of it, all right? They came over here and they slaughtered the Native American Indians, so-called Native American Indians for this land, all right? And then they also brought over the so-called Negroes here in slavery, right, to build up this land. So like I said, a Jedi mind trick. You ask these so-called white people, whose land this is. Oh, it's our land. My forefathers fought for it. But they'll never tell you who they fought for. The answer to that is the Native Americans, all right? And who built this up? They didn't build this up. They had slaves build this place up. So you ask them, all these so-called Edomites who claimed part of this land, you're like, okay, well, did your forefathers have anything to do with slavery? Every last one of them tell you none of their foreparents had anything to do with slavery, as if they all came over here, in like the 60s or the 70s or something like that, But that's like one of these Jedi mind tricks, They'll sit there and say that their forefathers fought for this, and many people fought and died and bled for that flag. Yeah, who was they fighting? They were genociding people for that, to come over here and steal this damn land, But they'll, like the scriptures say, who possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. All right. Negroes ain't doing this to nobody else. The Chinese ain't doing this to nobody else. Well, the Arabs kind of did it, but I mean, they get their judgment later, but they're not, they sold us to the white man. They're not still possessing us this same very day. The so-called white man won't let us go. All right. Then it says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. Yeah. Again, they're like, well, we didn't have anything to do with slavery or killing the Native Americans. But they'll tell you that their forefathers fought for this land and bled for this flag, And it says, and they say, and they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich. Yeah. How do you think all these insurance companies, stock market, and all this stuff, how do you think all these people got all this so-called old money off of slavery? That was their first fruits, Johnson & Johnson, Wells Fargo, all these companies like that, insurance. What do you think they was insuring first? The slaves, you know what I'm saying? So it says, in the stock market, what do you think they was trading on Wall Street first? Negroes, all right? This is where all this comes from. Black Friday is where you get your damn discount, That's where it all goes back to, But it says, and they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich. Yeah, all these, like I said, all these companies get rich off of all this, we got long money because our foreparents worked hard and built this here company. Yeah, off the back of slaves, Oh, thank God that my company did this and that. You got rich off of us, And it says, and their own shepherds pity them not, So basically, they in that pride of themselves. You're like, well, end all be all. Y'all want to say we took y'all slavery, but your own people sold you into slavery, Their own shepherds. A sheep has a shepherd, somebody that tends to them, that watch over them. Oh, your own people sold you into slavery. You should have been watching your own back, but instead they sold you into slavery. Nah, the Africans sold us into slavery. All right. And even at that, you bought stolen goods, So-called white man has a law. If you buy into stolen goods, you basically accountable for it, This is Psalms 55 and 20. Again, we talking about the characteristics of the so-called white man. And again, as we reading about him in the scriptures, you know, none of these things is being spoken of in a good light about him. All right. Not saying that the Most High, like, you know, the children of Israel, I chose Deuteronomy 7 and 6, you know, chose you to be a special people, to be above all the other peoples on the face of the earth. Right. The so-called white man isn't being talked about in those types of ways. The Most High he really has a hatred for him, you know. This is Psalms 55 and 20. It says, he put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He has broken his covenants. So when you go back to the Native Americans, so-called Native Americans, it was like, I believe, over 400 broken treaties that the so-called white man made with the so-called natives. All right. Not only there, so-called Negroes. Okay. I mean, when you look into a lot of these things, you know, the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, you know, the so-called freeing the slaves, but really you transferred the ownership, okay, from private to public. All right. Basically private owners to a public ownership. You know, now you have these corporations and these big businesses. You don't have individual plantation owners now. You have mega corporations and things like that now. We basically ran and owned by these people now. We're doing the same ass shit for the same minuscule ass, you know, crumbs on the table. All right. It says, he put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. Not only in his dealing with us, look at what he's doing today. Okay. Look what Donald Trump just did with the Iran nuclear deal. All right. What's going on with Russia, basically? Why you putting sanctions on them? Why you putting sanctions on North Korea? North Korea ain't. When in American history has North Korea ever like basically invaded America or attacked the homeland of America? Never. But yet you over here, you know, breaking covenants and peace treaties with these people and setting up demilitarized zones in these people's nations for all these different things. Not only that, your nuclear what is it called? A nuclear armament agreement, you know, where basically you pretty much wrote down on your own self that y'all ain't gonna advance your nuclear stockpile. You're not gonna build no more nukes. You're not gonna, how do you say, bring it in up to date or nothing like that. But what have you been doing over the, you know, not too long ago? You know, your history. You've been advancing all these systems, you know. Then you want to get mad at Russia when all of a sudden now they want to actually start advancing their technology. It says verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Okay. And that's one of the characteristics of the so-called white man. The so-called white man is not walking around talking about, oh yeah, we're going to kill you. We're going to blow you up. We hate you. This and that. Nah, he has certain things like Planned Parenthood. See, Planned Parenthood don't sound like nothing bad. It's like we planning parenthood. But what are you really in there doing? You murdering babies. Not just that, you murdering Israelite babies, because the majority of Planned Parenthood clinics are in Israelite neighborhoods. All right. But if you was just to put it on the top of the building, yeah, we kill babies. You know, we got a special offer on killing babies today. You know, people would know what the hell you up to. You know what I'm saying? And you know, we being Jake, yeah, we just call it out. I mean, we don't like using no bullshit, deceptive ass tongue like that. You know, somebody try to ask, well, what is Planned Parenthood? You know, you might fucking bug the fuck out trying to explain it the way Esau would explain it, but you be like, man, basically where they go and kill babies at. You want to go have an abortion, you can go kill your baby over there. Okay. It says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Yeah, he talked to you in nice words, but war was in his heart. Okay, like the example I gave about Planned Parenthood. Oh, you want to plan your parent, you know, when you want to have a kid and this and that, you want to plan all this stuff out. Responsible parents plan parenthood, don't they? What kind of irresponsible person don't plan parenthood? You see what I'm saying? That sounds all nice and all, you know, everything's smooth as butter. You know, everything is all good, everything kosher. But at the end of the day, what is really going on in there? It's a baby killing factory, basically. But war was in his heart. The words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Yeah, you know, America and their agenda, like with the Iran nuclear deal. All right. But then now all of a sudden you want to pull out of that, you know, the TPP trade agreements, you know, but now you want to pull out of all of that. You want to pull out of all these different things, you know, what is it? Your petrodollar. Now we can all trade on one currency. We don't have to keep converting all these currencies, but yet you the only one ain't really dealing in oil at the time, but you the only one really making money off of it. Everybody else doing the work, you reaping the benefits. All right. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 5. It says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. All right. Now, basically saying he going off by wine. Going off by wine. It's not saying that he going off because he walking around actually drunk off a wine or alcoholic beverage or anything like that. That's not what it's talking about. The wine that it's talking about is more or less his doctrine, the things that he put forth. You know, the Big Bang Theory. What is that other theory he got? Evolution theory. You know, these types of things. Homosexuality can be pushed on. This is him transgressing by his wine. You know, you're not supposed to, more or less to say, like the scripture say, hey, don't give your neighbor strong drink. Basically, you get him drunk so you can uncover his nakedness, you know? Just imagine that, you know? That's like saying, you know, like actually saying that, you know, don't get somebody fucked up drunk. Because you can get somebody super fucked up drunk, right? They all staggering and drunk. They ain't really conscious of what's really going on. Or they so drunk that they passed out. You over at their house, right? You get this motherfucker toasted drunk. They passed out. Now you got all the time in the world to go run through all his shit and take all his shit. Exposing him while he naked. You know, his guards is down, you know. You ain't supposed to do that, you know. But what it's talking about is the same way. Like, look, so-called white men go to your country and bring out, let's say, the Big Bang Theory, all right, or evolution theory. Now you got people believing in madness. You come from like nothing made nothing. Well, nothing made something, and then it made a bunch of different classes and categories. You know, we all came from the same one piece of dust. That one piece of dust, you know, then split male and female. Then it had its own food source. Then it had its own defenses, right? Then from those male and female pieces of dust, you know, it turned into a frog. Not only a frog, because we know we have multiple types of frogs, all right? So you didn't spread into multiple different types of frogs. Then, you know, first of all, a frog started off as a tadpole, you know, it's swimming in the water, right? Well, wait a minute. Why did it turn into a frog with legs and shit and get the fuck out the water when you got fish that's still in the water? You see what I'm saying? But we all evolved from like one single thing, you know? And then now you got birds and stuff, you know? Then they talk about like the giraffe. He evolved because his food source was up at the top. So he had to get his, you know, his body to get... This motherfucker would have starved to death. It wouldn't have been no more giraffes if the food source was too high up for his ass, you know? And a smart motherfucker would be like, okay, if there's food too high up there for me to get, maybe I'll look for other food sources, all right? You see how dumb that shit is? You know, you transgressing by wine. But only a drunk motherfucker will believe some stupid shit like that, you know? It says, yea, also, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man. You know? Oh, but you don't believe in the Big Bang Theory? All the scientists believe in this. You must be retarded. Well, no, motherfucker. You don't understand English, the words you came up with. And you don't understand the own shit you spewing out. It's the Big Bang Theory. What the hell? Define the word theory for me. Meaning it ain't got no facts to back it up. So you believe in something without no goddamn facts. Nothing pointing to that. In fact, there's more evidence pointing against that than the fact of, than there is that, you know? It's like saying, oh, there ain't no proof that there's the Most High. Like, well, all right, that's because y'all don't believe. However, we can give you that because you don't believe. And I can't, you know, make a blind man see if you want to be that fucking blind. But at the same time, I can show you all the evidence that would prove that we couldn't be here without a creator, you dumb fucker. You ain't never seen no creation without no creator, no design without no designer. All right. And we too fucking perfect for this shit just to happen like that. And you got a bunch of other examples of, not to say imperfections, but where ain't no life at, you know? We like, what do they call it? Third rock from the sun, third planet from the sun, meaning there's other planets between us and the sun and planets further out from the sun. You see what I'm saying? Why is it that we just right here in the right spot? Why is it that we have the right defense systems that we ain't getting bombarded by asteroids? Well, we are getting bombarded by asteroids, but why we ain't getting fucked up by them? Okay? Why none of the water ain't leaving the earth? Why all the oxygen is being maintained here on earth at the right levels? You see what I'm saying? So it's harder for me to believe that there ain't no creator or no designer for this perfectly designed creation. You know, it's harder for me to believe that it ain't one than it is for me to sit there and be like, oh, well, you know, you got to come up with too many fucking laws and things. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, back into the scriptures, it says, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. Okay? Him and his, we the smartest people on the planet Earth, you know? And if you ain't up on his standards, then you don't know nothing. That's some proud ass shit, man. It says, He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Okay? Yeah, he don't ever keep his ass at home. This motherfucker, everybody else pretty much got their own land, but this is the one dude who want to go from one side of the globe to the other side of the globe and take over this shit over here, the Americas. Then he want to go back over to the Middle East and take over the Middle East again, which he already took over the Middle East beforehand, you know? This is the only people who go, everywhere he go, let me read the next line. It says, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death, okay, and cannot be satisfied. No matter where this motherfucker go, death and hell follow him. All right, it ain't a place on the planet Earth the white man ain't put his foot, that in his trail and his shadow, that it ain't death and destruction and hell that follow it. All right, go look at the Middle East, what he doing over there, right? What he tell you in Iraq? Saddam Hussein is a brutal dictator, got weapons of mass destruction. Look at the time that Saddam Hussein was living and the conditions of the people, and just fuck the people. Look at the condition of the land, right? You can go to the condition of the people, the condition of the land, the condition of the neighboring countries around there. They was all better off when he was still alive. All right. Now I ain't trying to say that this guy was a saint or no angel or nothing like that, but at the same time, is it better or is it getting better or is it getting worse over there? All right. It's way worse over there. All right. But it says, and cannot be satisfied. The so-called white man on the whole fucking planet Earth. Nobody really trying to kill his ass up until this point in time. But yet he's still pushing. And the whole Earth ain't enough for him. Now this motherfucker want to go out to Mars, set up space stations, go to different places. This motherfucker, he's never satisfied with nothing that he got. You know, you see these companies and stuff, that trillionaires, hundreds of trillionaires. Not the corporations, but certain white people, trillionaires. But that ain't enough money, you know, billionaires. There's a certain, I can't think of what the actual amount of money is, but I did this calculation at one point in time that there's a certain amount of money that you can get to that, like, your regular average person could not spend. Like, once you start making a certain amount of money, you would never be able to outspend more than what you would be bringing in. All right, unless you buying countries or some shit like that. You know, you bailing countries out of their debt. Now you buying countries, but still, even at that, shit. America is what they would document, I believe, at like $23 trillion in debt, which is really at like $223 trillion in debt. All right. And now the estimated worth of the Rothschilds, one of the Rothschilds, I believe, is either 500 or 700 trillion. So let's just say this one family has enough to bail out the biggest country in debt, and not just that country, all the other countries in debt. So if you can bail out all the countries in all their debt from all this military spending and everybody spending all their retirement and all this stuff, they have enough money for all this stuff. So, you know what I'm saying? He's never satisfied, but what is he out there doing? Yeah, we got to make more profits than what we did last year, right? It says, but he gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Again, are the Chinese people bringing everybody? Like, now, all nations, for the most part, because children of Israel was scattered into all nations. So you will see us in all nations, all right? And you will see the so-called white man invading all nations. However, for the most part, the Chinese people don't have, like, you know, all nations massively represented in their nations. The Arabs don't either. The Africans don't either. Now, again, there are certain situations where there are other nations in these countries. However, it's dealing with basically like the white man, like South Africa. Oh, there's white people in Africa. Yeah, because the white man went over there and invaded the shit. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. And also with the, like, how you say, the transatlantic slave trade and them dispersing us in all these nations. What the Most High said was going to happen. We would be in all these different nations. But as a heavy whole, it's the so-called white man in his country, America, what they call the so-called melting pot. They have all these different nations over here. You got massively representing Chinese people, Japanese people, so-called Hispanics, so-called Negroes over here. We was brought over here on slave ships, but you know, you have so-called all nations right here in America. All right, he is bringing all these people upon himself. This is what he do. All right, none of these other nations is, hey, Africans. You don't see Chinese saying, hey, Africans, come move into our nation. Hey, Negroes, come move into our nation. The Arabs ain't doing that either. All right. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long to him that ladeth himself with thick clay? Okay. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Turn your news on. This is what these other nations is mad about right the fuck now. Who they mad with? They not mad at the so-called Negroes about the shit. They're not mad at North Korea about this shit. They're not mad at China about this. They mad at the so-called white man about this. It's so bad other white nations are mad at him about this. All right. I'll pull this and I'll close out after this. I had some more scriptures, but I know it went on a little too long. But nevertheless, I meant to read this earlier. This is Joel 3:6. It says, the children of Judah. Hold on. I'm going to read this actually. I'll read it from verse 2. This is Joel 3:2. It says, I will gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, or Jehoshaphat. Okay, which you see that happening right now. This is why all these nations are in the Middle East right now. All right, twofold. The Most High is judging these other nations over there with the so-called white man, with Esau right now, for what the fuck they did to us. They got to get their judgment too. All right, they getting their judgment right now. They getting pressed upon with him right now. All right, but not only that, the Most High is going to finish these other nations off, and Esau all over there at the same time with what you see going on right now in the Middle East. All right, it says, I will bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. All right. Now, who scattered us among the nations? We're going to read this and they're going to break it all down. It says, who scattered them among the nations and part of my land. Right. So who the fuck is in Israel right now? Who parted that land? Right. And don't bring up the Palestinians. All right. Because it was the so-called British who, well, yeah, it was the British who wrote out the Balfour Declaration that gave the damn land to the Rothschilds. All right, so it was basically the Edomites dividing the land and giving it to other Edomites. All right, the Palestinians ain't got no goddamn say. They ain't supposed to be over there anyway, but they don't have no say so over there, because if they was, they wouldn't be arguing about a two-state solution right now. But nevertheless, it says, verse 3, and they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. All right. Now this is going into this transatlantic slave trade. All right. This is what they was trading, and go back and do that history. What was they trading for? They was trading for what was it? Rum, or like alcohol, guns, and also they was taking young Jake males, and because Esau is a goddamn pedophile freak, and you know how he homosexual. Look at the laws he passing out so he can feel comfortable. Right, he was taking out little boys and greasing them up and selling them for basically sex slaves. All right. It says they have cast lots for my people. They have given a boy for a harlot or a sex slave. All right. Now this is pointing out who the Negroes are in the scriptures. This is our history, what happened to us. But who is the people who's doing this? So-called white man. All right. And these are the people who are the they that they talking about. And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, what do you have to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Talking about these Africans the Africans and the damn Arabs. First of all, the Arabs took us from when we fled into Africa from 70 AD. That would have put us on the east coast of Africa. All right, and when you go into history, we were sold on the slave ships off the west coast of Africa. All right. Now, when you go into the history, there's something called a sub-Saharan slave trade, where the so-called Arabs took us in captivity. Or basically, it was a slave trade. They just marched us from one side of Africa to the other side. That's how we all ended up on the west coast of Africa. All right. And then the Africans is the ones who, from there, was rounding us up and selling us to the so-called white man. This is why in history, people say that we sold ourselves into slavery, because the so-called white man was like, well, dark-skinned people sold other dark-skinned people into slavery, but they were selling people they knew wasn't their people. We had different customs than them. All right. So they knew that we weren't the same people. It says, yea, what do you have to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? Are you going to pay me back? You going to pay me back for all basically, the children of Israel that you didn't sold into slavery and all this? You going to pay me back for this? It says, will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because you have taken my silver and my gold. Okay, now the silver and the gold that it's talking about is, again, this is for the next lesson coming up, talking about the so-called Negroes. This specifically is talking about the so-called Negroes, the ones that was taken over here in what they call the transatlantic slave trade. All right. Speaking in a highly sense to them, because in a surface level, they're like, oh, y'all believe in the white man's book. He brought you over into slavery with that book and enslaved you with that book. Yeah, because we weren't able to read this book. We didn't know who we were. And then we also lost our customs and understandings of who we were. He talked about this was all white people. But it says, ye have taken my silver and my gold. The Most High is comparing the so-called Negroes and really the children of Israel, okay, to his silver and his gold, his most precious metals, all right? And it says, because you have taken my silver and my gold and carried them into your temples and goodly pleasant things, into your temples, my goodly pleasant things. And who has all these goddamn museums and all this shit and got all history behind glass? It's not Negroes, not Latinos, not Chinese people, not Arabs. It's motherfucking white man. The white man has all this shit. All right. He's the only people that fit his characteristics. All right. And it says, and who took his silver and his gold? All right. And the backup with the silver and the gold is verse 6. The children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem. Okay. Now, the children of Jerusalem is talking about the northern kingdom because, again, it was something called the transatlantic slave trade. They was trading back and forth. And before the Negroes even went into slavery, just like in old times, the northern kingdom went into slavery first. 1492, Columbus and them came over, all right? It wasn't until about 1618, 1619 that the first massive slave ships of the Negroes came over. Okay, so from 1492 to 1618, 1619, the northern kingdom was over here enslaved at that point in time, all right? And it was taking them back over into Europe and stuff like that, all right? It says, the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold into the Grecians, okay? And who sold them into the Grecians? You go back up, it's talking about the Africans, all right? The Africans and these Muslims, or the Arabs. It says, the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians. Okay, they go to white man in the Bible again, all right? So, again, none of these scriptures, they're being pulled out as being in a good light, all right? You just read this book, you would actually, with the right understanding, you would understand that this is not their book. And if anything, this book condemns them, all right? It says, the children of Judah and children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians that ye might remove them far from their border. And I mean that line right there alone lets you know. I mean that line alone basically breaks down the transatlantic slave trade. All right, but and who was the main beneficiary of that? The so-called white man. All right. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and close out with this. Oh, hold on. Let me read verse 7 and 8. It says, behold, I will raise them out of the place where you have sold them and will return your recompense upon your own head. So, people would think, oh, this is the book that enslaved you. No, the white man's in the book. Yeah, talk about slavery. Yeah, we were supposed to go into slavery under him. But this is what the Most High, that's because we broke his law, statutes, commandments. All right. But this is the end for him. It says, I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahweh has spoken it. Okay? Proclaim this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men draw near, let them come up. Okay? And you see all this is going in, this is basically going into the Most High about to bring judgment on these damn heathen, which you already see that going on in the Middle East and all those other countries, but also on the so-called white man. All right? With that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Like I said, I done drug on way longer than I expected. But Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that brought me this truth, or that taught me this truth. And salutation and much love for you. I can push this truth with sincerity in the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions. Stay strong. Shalom.